We view homeownership as the definitive step toward independence. We are taught that signing that 30-year contract is the moment we stop being tenants and start being masters of our own domain. Yet the economic reality rarely matches the cultural ideal. For most families, the equity in their home is a paper gain, constantly offset by interest payments on fiat-created credit. You are effectively paying a bank for the privilege of maintaining an asset you do not yet fully own. This control persists even after the mortgage is settled. Between property taxes tied to inflated assessments and the constant threat of zoning changes, the state maintains a superior claim to the land. If you stop paying the regulatory tax, you quickly discover that your ownership was always conditional. These financial pressures are not accidental. To understand why the dream of unencumbered property is slipping away, we have to look past the housing market and examine the specific nature of the money used to buy it. When inflation eats the value of the home and taxes ensure the state remains a co-owner, the concept of private property begins to look more like a state-managed rental agreement. In 1913, the Federal Reserve Act established a central banking cartel that seized control of the nation's monetary supply. This hybrid institution, owned by private banks but overseen by a government board, replaced market-driven money with centralized planning. The system operates on fiat money. This is currency that holds value strictly by government decree, entirely unbacked by physical commodities like gold. Its supply is determined not by production or savings, but by the policy goals of the central bank. This transformation reached its height under the Wilson administration. By signing the Federal Reserve Act, President Wilson authorized a systemic departure from the sound monetary foundations that had historically limited the growth of the state. This established the framework for fractional reserve banking. In this system, commercial banks do not lend out pre-existing money from a vault. Instead, they are permitted to expand the money supply by issuing credit that is only partially backed by actual reserves. Under this protocol, the entire economy relies on the constant creation of new debt. Money is no longer a tool of past production, but a claim on future labor that must be borrowed into existence. Consider a $500,000 mortgage. When you sign those papers, the bank does not pull those funds from a depositor's account. It simply credits the seller's account with newly created digits. The money is created ex nihilo, out of nothing, the moment the debt is issued. This newly conjured credit floods the system, mathematically diluting the purchasing power of every dollar already in circulation. Because there are now more dollars chasing the same number of houses, the price of every home is pushed higher. This expansion of the currency, inflation, functions as a systematic transfer of wealth. It rewards the early receivers of new money, like banks and government contractors, while devaluing the stagnant wages and savings of the general public. Beyond the currency itself, the regulatory tax creates a secondary barrier. Zoning, building codes, and environmental mandates add between 24 and 32% to the cost of a new home, creating an artificial scarcity that further inflates prices. These mandates represent state coercion that raises the cost of exercising ownership. As the cost of defending property against bureaucratic intervention rises, the net return of owning that property falls, forcing families into even deeper debt just to secure a roof over their heads. By combining artificially cheap credit with extreme regulatory barriers, the state has transformed the family home into a speculative asset in a rigged debt casino. This isn't just an economic inefficiency, it is a moral crisis. This text identifies inflation as larceny, a modern iteration of the false weights and measures explicitly forbidden in biblical law. To dilute the value of money is to steal the fruit of a neighbor's labor. The fiat system rewards political allegiance and proximity to the central bank. It penalizes the economic productivity and thrift required to sustain a healthy society, encouraging high time preference and reckless borrowing instead. This stands in direct opposition to the biblical principle of private ownership. Scripture demands a tight connection between ownership and personal responsibility. When the state claims the right to inflate away value, it breaks that connection and asserts sovereignty over the future. By attempting to suspend the natural reality of scarcity through decree, the fiat standard undermines the foundational honesty required for human cooperation. It operates as a system of debt bondage that erodes the very basis of a free civilization. Restoration begins with a return to sound money, a market-chosen commodity like gold or silver. Because these metals cannot be counterfeited by the state, they restore honest weights to the economic system. Sound money acts as a circuit breaker, making economic calculation possible again. It rewards those who save for the future and provides a stable foundation for long-term investment in family and community. The second step is the ruthless deregulation of the housing market. Eliminating the artificial scarcity created by bureaucratic planning is the only way to slash the regulatory tax and allow the market to clear. When honest money is combined with minimal civil government, families can finally reclaim absolute private property rights. This allows for the accumulation of unencumbered, multi-generational wealth that the state cannot easily dilute or tax into oblivion. Reclaiming our independence requires a rejection of the interventionist state and its monopoly on money. By restoring the biblical link between ownership and responsibility, we can move away from the debt casino and back toward true dominion.